Here's some of the questions people asked or comments that people made last time. Following up on what someone said here, fellow said the previous week said, if a black hole is nothing more than a densely packed collection of matter that is hard to see. And he got upset because I didn't read the rest of that comment there. And he said, well, Bill didn't even try to read the rest of my comment. Yeah, I didn't. I guess it wasn't worth it, And so he said he was a little upset by that. Are you going to read the rest of the comment? And the answer is no, because right there in the first sentence, you already bombed out. Okay, there's no way you can recover from that. And so what was wrong with what he said? So let's go into this. We were talking about black holes and the fact that, people suggest that, especially the mathematicians, they suggest that there are these things they call black holes out there. And that they swallow stars, they swallow gases, they make stars orbit around them and also other matter. And none of that can possibly be true. It's simply impossible, irrational. So an irrational proposal. And here's the answer to this gentleman. Okay. My point was that black hole has nothing to do with seeing or touching. Okay, that's the first thing. It's got nothing to do with seeing or touching. It's even earlier than that. Okay. It's not an issue of whether we can see a dark star or anything like that. The attempt to steer the discussion in that direction towards a hidden mass is what is at issue. That's where we have the irrationality. The fact that this fellow says that there is a dark star out there, a black star or invisible star, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's where the problem starts. Okay. And not because we can see it or touch it. In fact, he mentioned something along those lines. He says, nonsense. Why is see, touch suddenly an excuse to hand wave away a viable mechanism? One that is perfectly then understood, that stretches electromagnetic ropes to the point of unseeability. He's saying that this dark star has all these atoms, right, or neutrons or whatever, and ropes extend from those atoms to your eye, and so he said he doesn't see a problem. It's just below the range that we can see. That's all he's saying. The frequency is different, right? Are you going to object to electromagnetic rope dark stars because you can't see them or touch them? It's a bunch of densely packed stuff. That's what he thinks a black hole is. And that's where the problem is. It's not a question of seeing and touch. It's what is a black hole? That's what the issue is. That's what he's got to answer. So it precedes see and touch. Black hole is irrational because it's a zero-dimensional singularity. Okay? Zero-dimensional singularity means it's got no size, no volume. Okay? There's nothing there. There's no length, width, or height. All you have is absolutely nothing. Because even the black hole is alleged, to crush all matter out of existence. Mass is the quantity of matter, or a measure of the quantity of matter. And if that's the case, it's got no matter, then it's got no mass. It's just as simple as that. So black hole is the definition of nothing, absolutely nothing. How do we define nothing? That which has no shape. Okay. What is something? Well, something is that which does. See how simple it was? So you have black holes, got no shape, no size, no volume, no matter, no mass, no length, width, or height. That's exactly the definition of nothing, okay, especially if it's got no shape. So this is where the problem is. It's not a question of seeing or touching. It's a question that they define the black hole in such a way that you cannot challenge it in any way. You can say, well, did you see it? Well, yeah, we can't see it because it's impossible to see it. Oh, I see. Okay. Have we touched it? No, we can't touch it. Can't see it, can't touch it, can't do anything with it. It's there. How do you know it's there? Because of all the mass. What do you mean mass? I thought mass was the quantity of matter, and it turns out matter is crushed completely out of its existence inside a black hole. So there's no mass because there's no matter, no volume, no size, no shape, no length, width, or height. What do we have? We have nothing. That's where the problem is. It's not quite, you can't see nothing. Or maybe you can, I don't know. That's the issue. It's not a question of seeing or touching. It's a question of what. There is no star. He's talking about a dark star in there. In fact, I think he said something like that. He says, crisis of mainstream is still there. The point that I was making is that you never left the mainstream and its problems. You just gave it a different coat of paint. Well, obviously, this fellow has no clue whatsoever what we do here, because here it is. Mainstream is 150% irrational. Why? Because it treats concepts such as energy field as things and moves these concepts around during physical interpretations. Have you ever heard of transfer energy? Have you ever heard of a vibrating field, waving the wave, and all these other good stuff? You know, they're moving concepts around when they do that. You can't use that language in physics. And that's where the problem is. That's why it's irrational. And it's totally different from what we do here. We only move objects around, okay? So a black hole is irrational because it's a 0D singularity, and a black hole is not stuff, okay? And that's how we're different from the mainstream. The mainstream doesn't care about stuff, okay? And you can take that to the bank. That's solid. We work with objects. We move objects around. We don't do concepts. We don't vibrate concepts or push them. We don't push mass. We push boxes, maybe, trees, houses, but we don't push mass. It's impossible. We don't carry the force or the interactions. You know, we don't do any of that stuff. That's what mathematical physics does. That's how they explain. That's their physical interpretations, and they're not physical at all, because what they're doing is moving concepts. Right? And here's a fellow who comes out in defense of the mathematicians. He says the following: says, first cause is mind consciousness. Oh my God. Every time someone introduces the word consciousness, I start scratching the blackboard. The universe follows mathematical laws. Okay, I don't know what laws those are. There are no laws in physics. Okay, and so whatever they have in math doesn't concern physics. Math is conceptual. Yeah, it is. It only deals with dynamic concepts more specifically. It says the universe must have a mind. The universe has a mind. Okay, this is getting really weird here, because mathematics is abstract ideas that can only reside in mind or minds. Okay. So I don't know what this guy drank, but I wish I had a drop of that as well. You know, sometimes I like to be as high as this guy. This follows everything required by the scientific method for evidence. Well, yeah, evidence is not part of science. Evidence is part of religion. You introduce evidence to persuade and convince. You don't use evidence to explain. Okay, you can bring it up casually, but the main point for explanations is causes. You need to explain a cause, a physical interpretation mechanism, and you don't need evidence for that. You can always introduce evidence, to pad your presentation, but evidence should always be considered as part of religion. Evidence is only used to persuade, convince, convert, recruit. That's the purpose of evidence. Universe followed mathematical laws before any human mind. Well, we don't know what laws he's talking about. I don't know who legislated those. And I guess we're going to find out here it's God. In his next statement says, we are still learning mathematics from nature, universe. It's part of science. The language of the universe is mathematical, geometrical. Yeah, that essentially the first person who came up with that notion was Galileo. He said that mathematics is the language of physics, of the universe. That's what God put in here. He gave it to us. He bequeathed to us. Physics is spoken mathematically. Technology mimics nature, universe. If something can occur in math, it can occur in the physical world. Yeah, again, we separate physics from math and math from physics. Math can only describe, the only thing math does is describe motion. All concepts in math, all of them, 150% of them are dynamic. There are no static concepts in all of mathematics. And that includes geometry as well. They're all dynamic because they're calculating really itineraries. Whenever you see a square, they're not talking about squares, the object, or when they talk about a cube, they're not talking about an object. They're solid in that case. explained in the previous one. Now they're talking about a perimeter, how to go around. That's what they're doing. They're still drawing their squares and circles because they say there's always two points between any 2 points. And so we have infinite number of points, to use that term. And that means that to this day, everybody's still drawing the mathematical, the geometrical square or cube or whatever figure, because they're all made of points. And there's always a point between any 2 points. Okay, the fellow continues and he says, the God of math. What does he have to say about the God of math? And he says, why does the universe obey mathematical laws? I don't know. Maybe they get a ticket if they don't. Okay, consciousness, the mind of God. That's what he thinks consciousness is. The laws of mathematics are conceptual because God's thoughts are conceptual. Okay, the laws of mathematics are universal. They apply everywhere because God is omnipresent. Okay, so God is everywhere. And I guess that means he's nowhere. God is everything. That means he's nothing. I guess that's what it means. Okay, the laws of mathematics are invariant because God doesn't change with time. Okay, so he's invariant. God is beyond time and made time. Okay, so I don't know how he can be beyond time when time is a concept, and beyond is a word that refers to, objects. You can be beyond the wall, but not beyond time. It's very difficult to be beyond time, because if you're beyond time, you're still on time. You're on the number line still, on that number line. God thinks mathematically, therefore the way God upholds the universe will be mathematical. Okay. He thinks mathematically. He's a mathematician. Okay? The laws of mathematics are exceptional because God is sovereign. There is no aspect of creation that is out of God's control. One energy connected in a fashion called entanglement. I am sentient. Consciousness manifests in holographic fractal dimensionality as energy. Whatever he said there. Bartender, can I have whatever he had? All is everything and everything is in all. Yeah, these people have riddles in their head, and I guess they never, really came down back to earth. That's why I continue saying that if you're up there in the air and take graviton, graviton, okay? Graviton will bring you back to earth. A couple pills a day will get you heavier. You won't be flying out there in the middle of cloud 9, Okay, so here we have, fellow says again, math is, this is another fellow who, I guess he got the opposite view. He says, math is a tool that has become a crutch for lazy intellectuals. Yeah, I like that. To hide behind rather than doing anything of practical value. If the only way you can prove something is with math, then the only thing you proved is the math. Yeah, and they use that word proof in mathematics. Okay, they talk about proofs, and that word proof has trickled into explanations of mechanisms in physics. And people say, well, they proved that, gravity is the warping of time. Well, I don't know about proving, how do you prove that it's the warping of time when you can't even make sense of it? Or that the earth drags time around as it spins. These irrational notions that came out of relativity. And they come up with all this stuff and people say, oh, they proved it. And that word proof comes from mathematics. Why? Because they say, hey, I can prove that 1 + 1 = 2, right? Very simple. And they take 2 apples and they say, this is 1 apple, see, now you have 2 apples. Well, that's just naming things. It's not, you haven't done anything. Okay? Those are the laws these people talk about. Okay, I think the same fellow says the following. He says, science is about description, prediction, and control through observation. Is that what it is? Okay, we control through observation, experimentation, and peer review. Peer review means someone out there, who already has his mind made up. He's going to look at your paper because he's a peer reviewer, one of these hooded monks that looks at papers out there, and he's going to decide whether he's going to allow you to publish or not. Imagine if you're an atheist and you try to publish a paper in a theist magazine, Christian magazine, for example, and you want to prove the non-existence of God. You say, my paper will show, blah, 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 that God doesn't exist. Well, you know, the peer reviewers, the monks, the hooded monks, they may not allow that paper to be published, whether it's right or wrong. It's just that they say, hey, buddy, you know, you're in the wrong place. You're trying to publish in our Christian magazine that God doesn't exist, you know, so they're probably going to kick it out, or there's a big chance that they'll kick it out. They won't allow that stuff to reach their congregation, especially, right? In physics, we describe, predict, and control. So he does predictions. I guess they do astrology, palm reading. I don't know. The language of the universe is geometrical, mathematical. And another fellow wrote a comment, I think it's applicable very much to this fellow. Says, stop skipping your schizomatic meds. Crackpots in a nutshell. They don't have the background to understand science. Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. These people have no ability whatsoever to understand physics. And so the question is, why are they in physics? I mean, if they're going to talk about consciousness and God, you know, I think they're in the wrong field completely. What are they doing here? Okay, and Paul says, atoms are hypothesized, discrete and magical little balls. Particles the same, but at least particles are meant to be fundamental. All are activated by some magic called energy. Yeah, the word energy has just infiltrated mathematical physics completely. And all they talk about is energy and fields and energy, among others. Like sometimes they'll talk about mass and forces and so on, and time. But primarily it's fields and energy. Those two words need to be wiped out of the dictionary, especially anyone who wants to enter physics. You got to leave those two words behind. And Bella Answer says, physics gave up long ago looking for that. Yeah, they don't look for physical interpretations. They don't look for causes, for mechanisms, and you won't find a single one out there. Go out there and find us. Just ask the question. You know, ask any so-called physicist, mathematical physicist, how does gravity work? What does an atom look like? You know, what is a wave? You know, and so on. And they can't give you an answer. They simply cannot. Not in physical terms. Okay, and so that's where we're at today. After thousands of years of research, they can't answer these simple questions, and they are very simple. All you have to do is illustrate. You illustrate, now you understand. Everybody can see with their eyes what you've illustrated. So if you illustrate the atom, you say that's the atom over there. But the way they do it today, and we'll see this today, is that they'll put an atom there, and then when you say that's your atom, the little bead going around the nucleus, well, no, that's the one I'm going to use to make my explanation, but that is not the real atom. But why don't you draw the real atom then? Because they can't, and they never will. That's the issue. So all they want to do is describe mathematically, and based on that description, they're going to give you the most irrational explanation they can find for whatever phenomenon they're trying to explain. And when you put them up against the wall, they say, well, we don't do that anyways. All we do is math. And so you never get an explanation. Okay, final word from this one, I think, says, philosophy, as it is understood and practiced, has generally been considered to be the search for truth. Is that what philosophy is? The search for truth. Uh-huh. Well, you'll never find truth, because what is truth to one fellow is a lie to another. So there is no such thing as search for truth, because there is no absolute truth. Now, you can say that what Mother Nature, Father Universe, God, the devil, whoever you pray to, they know exactly what happened, what's registered out there in history, you know, somewhere in the heavens, right, in space-time somewhere. That you could call truth. But we humans, we have no access to the past. We can't go back in time, like in relativity, to that file cabinet and say, this is exactly what happened. And this is how it happened. We have no chance to do that. All we can do is provide theories of what could have happened, of how it could have happened, and let the other person just listen to that and reach his own conclusions. Belief, again, nothing to do with science. Okay, believe whatever you believe, that's your problem. All you can do is explain the mechanism of what you think happened. That's it. And we cannot. So truth, there is no truth among humans. There's only truth among the gods up there. They know exactly what happened. They have it registered in their heavenly computer. They can tell you exactly, say, on such and such day, you know, Napoleon went to Waterloo. Okay, great. They know exactly the time, the hour. They have the film there in the file cabinet. We have no access to that file cabinet. And so if that's truth, we can only speculate on the truth. So the search for truth is not really what science is about, or philosophy is about. Philosophy is a branch of science. And so philosophy is it's the explanation of something that, of why someone did something, okay? Why did Napoleon go to Waterloo? That's a question that, philosophy deals with. And it's, again, it's an explanation of what was going through his mind. That's what philosophy is. And only there. That's where we stop philosophy. Anything outside of that is not philosophy. It's just opinion, politics, religion, or whatever. None of that is philosophy. Because, again, philosophy is a branch of science, one of the two branches, the other one being physics. And search for truth is the study of reality. No, absolutely not. Study of reality has to do with physics, okay? Only physics deals with reality. Philosophy deals with, again, behavior, why someone did something, which seeks to understand the nature of truth and the ways to discover it. Yeah, again, this fellow has been brainwashed to believe that all this has to do with truth, and truth is just opinion among humans, it's just opinions. Okay, then he says, belief. This belief has absolutely no credence in the scientific method. Absolutely. So why does he bring truth up when truth is belief among humans, right? He says a belief can be true or false. Exactly. And that's why, and truth can also be true or false. For some people, the truth is true. And for other people, that truth is false. So truth is just a belief among humans, okay? Not among the gods up there. It's an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. Yeah, absolutely has nothing to do with that. Even if it's contrary to the scientific method. A hypothesis has indication of truth that is not known to be true. And when do you know it's true? I mean, the moment you say it is true, all you're giving is a belief. You're saying that to you, it's the truth. It's true because you verified it or whatever. To the other guy, it's not. So his truth is different than your truth. A hypothesis is a justified belief that is backed up with some supporting evidence. So again, what is evidence? What you believe. Someone looks at the same evidence, has a different opinion, reaches a different conclusion. A theory in science is a carefully thought out explanation. Yeah, that's what a theory is. Theory is explanation, and only explanation, not description. That's why science only deals with theory, with explanation, not with description or what? Prediction, which is just another form of description. A prediction without more is just a description. If you say that there's going to be an eclipse tomorrow at 2 o'clock, all you said is that all you've given so far is a description of what's going to happen. You haven't explained why. In order to explain why, you have to go to the past, because whys, explanations only deal with consummated events. Okay, and then a couple people raised an issue that I raised the other day, and that's this law of identity. One person says, the first law of identity, and another person says, you identify to define. A is A, not A equal A, and it is not about quantity. It comes from Aristotle in that formulation. Law of identity, law of non-contradiction, and law of excluded middle, laws of logic. I'd like to stay away from the word law. We have no laws, except the ones that Congress puts out there. But the law of identity, it's very simple. We have to divide concepts from objects. Okay? We cannot use the law of identity, whatever that law means, right? Law of identity has to do with concepts and objects. When you're dealing with concepts, there's a fuzzy world out there, because you can say, look, I'm going to define a certain word, and you're going to put the colon, and then you put a bunch of words, and you're saying the one on this side is very similar, substantially similar to the other guy on the other side of the colon. In mathematics, they put an equal sign. But in physics, the law of identity, that A is equal to A, makes no sense whatsoever. Object is equal to object, chair is equal to itself. it makes no sense, as Wittgenstein already pointed out in my last dissertation. It makes no sense to say that the tree is a tree. You haven't said anything for objects. Now, for concepts, definitions, etc., that's a different story, and that's a little more complicated. Where you're going to use this law of identity is, you got to specify a lot more what you mean by law of identity. But in physics, we don't care about that. We care about objects. And to say that, the table is the table, you haven't said anything. Absolutely nothing. So law of identity, don't bring it into physics. Keep it out there for concepts, for philosophy. And whether it has any validity, well, I'm not going to get into that. I keep saying, don't use the word law. Okay? There are no such things as laws, especially as applied to physics.